true stepbrother chooses friend over sister. In January 2014, I started smoking pot with my stepbrother Hayden. He was 22 or 23 at the time. It's difficult keeping up after having 9 siblings. At first I did not want to do it, then after being peer pressured to do it, I did it. I was 13 years old. We would be smoking pot with each 2 or 3 times a week, usually on the weekend. In May 2014, we were smoking pot, and I noticed that this did not seem right at all. After about 5 minutes, I became limp. We were in his room. I laid down on the floor, hoping that it would go away, but it did not. He then picked me up, ripped off my clothes, groped my breasts, and made me be on top of him. I could not move at all. I tried to scream no, but it just turned into a faint whisper. He took advantage of me being limp and raped me. I felt motionless. I just remember staring at the wall wanting to cry my eyes out, and him moaning after he was done. He put on Futurama and he would not let me leave his room. I passed out. I was 14 years old when he raped me. When I woke up, it was Monday morning. I snuck out of his room, put on clothes, and went to school. I remember having sharp pain down there and walking funny. One of my friends asked what happened. I told her how my stepbrother took advantage of me. She told me she would not tell anyone. 2 hours later, everyone at school is asking me if it was true. I told them that it was not. I did not want to be taken away from my mom. It was not her fault. She was asleep when it happened, and he knew no one would have heard me. I get home and head upstairs to my room. My stepdad was home, but my mom was at work. My stepbrother came into my room, covered my mouth, and dragged me into his room. He raped me again. This happened for a month and a half. After him raping me the first time, I started to cut myself, usually on my upper thigh, so no one would see it when I wear shorts. No one knew that I self-harmed except for my stepbrother, because he would rip my clothes off when I tell him no repeatedly. No one even noticed that I was abused. I acted like my normal depressed self. I acted like it did not happen, and that we got along. July 2014, I'm still smoking pot with him because I did not have much of a choice. He stopped raping me, but would not let me stop smoking pot. Hayden, his friend Aiden, and I are there in his room getting high. I smoked too much and could not walk straight, so I went back to my room. A half hour later, Aiden comes into my room. He lays down on my bed. I felt extremely uncomfortable. He forcefully kissed me. He then unbuttoned his pants and pulled out his dick. I asked him what he was doing. He said, "I will leave your room once when you suck on it." I refused to. He kept pressuring me into doing it. He would not leave me alone. He was groping me, and I told him to stop. I asked him to leave nicely, then to the point where I yelled at him to get the fuck out of my room. He then forced me to perform oral sex on him. He came in my mouth. After he did, he left my room. I ran into the bathroom spitting it out with how disgusting it tasted, and with how disgusted I felt. I threw up as well. I stayed in the bathroom crying for an hour. I went back to my room and pulled out my blade and made a deep cut into my leg. After it stopped bleeding, I fell asleep. The next morning, I was walking to the bathroom and Aiden saw me. He saw the cut that is dried up on my leg. He said to me, "If you want to kill yourself, just do it. It would make the world a better place, and no one would care. You can overdose on pills and cut your body down the street." Not a cross. This was just fucking fantastic to hear. Sarcasm, you know, after me feeling like shit and already want to kill myself. December 2014, I'm still cutting. I have scars all over my body. I started to cut more onto my wrist, since more blood would come out than on my legs. Also, with it being cold, I could cover it with my bracelets and my hoodie. When I got home from school one day, I took a shower and had my bracelets off. When I got out of the shower, my mom was home and saw my cuts. We went to the doctors to get antidepressants and a therapist. The next day, December 8, 2014, my friend Nick committed suicide. He hung himself. I felt horrible because he called me the night before when I was asleep. I was not there for him. I felt horrible. A couple weeks later, on December 27th, my 3-month nephew August passed away. This was Hayden's kid. I felt horrible because Hayden's girlfriend would not let me in August's life. The first time I saw my nephew was the last time I saw him. I remember watching my mom give him CPR on the piano bench and his face was blue. I thought it was a nightmare and I should wake up any minute, but it was not. March 29, 2015, at 10 o'clock at night at my dad's house, I decided I was gonna take my life. I did as what Aiden told me, overdose and slit my main vein. I overdosed on Advil, Tylenol, Ibuprofen, Nyquil, and some other medication I cannot remember. After 20 minutes I ran into my dad's room and told him what I did. He took me to the hospital, and we arrived at 11:03 p.m. I remember looking up at the ceiling and seeing the college logos, drinking the disgusting charcoal water, the cold IV going to my body, and seeing my dad watching his daughter trying to come back. I was released 12 hours later and was an outpatient for the next week. I was put on new antidepressants and I got a new therapist. I do not think of her as a therapist, I think of her as a friend. One day in June, I told her about Aiden. She asked if my mom knew and I said no. She brought my mom in the room and I told her what happened. She started crying, saying that it was her fault not looking out for me. We told her it was not her fault at all. He knew when it would be the right to do it. The week after that my mom and I went to the police station to report Aiden. It was too late to throw his ass in jail because there's no evidence anymore. It sucks, but I knew they would not be able to do anything about it. Whenever someone asks Hayden or Aiden what happened, they just say that I was asking to perform oral sex on Aiden. From them saying that I will be called a slut, whore, and cumdumpster, Hayden tells me that he's here for me, yet he backstabs me and raped me. I'm doing better than I was. I have not reported Hayden because I do not want to be taken away by my parents. The only people that know about Hayden raping me are my boyfriend and my ex. I'm a year clean from marijuana and 3 months clean from self-harming. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button to support my work. And as always, enjoy the fear, my dear.